welcome everyone on the Information Technology and Service Management PCB webinars. My name is Vlad Shala, the PCB organizer of this webinar, and today's topic is key success factors for your business continuity management program. This webinar will be presented by Mr. Henry E. Mr. Henry is Managing Director at BCP Asia and the Regional Director for Asia at BCI, and has more than 20 years of experience in business continuity, IT, disaster recovery, and crisis management. Please, if you will have any question during the webinar, you can write your question and comments, writing them in the question box in the right-hand control panel, or you may use the option to raise your hand. And Mr. Henry will answer to them in the end of the presentation accordingly. Please, Mr. Henry, you may continue your presentation.
Thank you. Right. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present and share with you all some of the business continuity factor. This is myself, just for those people that participate in the webinar, because we don't get to see each other, and this is how I look like, right? Of course, the photo is actually taken some years ago, right? And I look much older and much matured now as compared to the photo, right? As per the request and maybe some of the follow-up subsequently, I left with some my personal contact information that actually we can exchange some information experience that through LinkedIn or maybe Twitter or Facebook. Just a quick introduction, because I actually spent my probably entire career that actually on business continuity management. We actually started off our company BCP Asia actually since year 2000, focused in consulting, training, internal audit, and also we do automation on business continuity as well. A very brief back on myself, actually on business continuity, that again, I'm actually a BCM certified by the BCI, a fellow at BCI. I also actually accredited by the DRII in the US as a CBCP. I'm certified as a management consultant, PMC, and we also got the adult training course called ACTA certification in Singapore by the WDA. For the business continuity, because there's an international standard called ISO 22301, which I will touch on very briefly later on. There's a certification for lead auditor and for the lead implementer itself, that actually with PECB. Actually, I'm actually one of the actually lead implementer and auditor that actually under this scheme as well. Okay, right. This is our background. Actually, I think that actually what we do for our career and our in our company, that doing public speaking, right? Let's focus into the topic that actually all of you probably very concerned about. What is business continuity? I'll share with you some of what is the BCM basic information, and subsequently we look at actually some of the key success factors that actually can make a difference in your BCM program. Success or failure, a lot of time depends on some of the task and how you're going to deal with the information. I've been spending the last 20 years doing business continuity, and a lot of time actually people will ask, what is business continuity? Crisis is actually something that all of us will actually encounter. Different kind of risks, different kind of threat that actually do happen every now and then. And business continuity is one of the ways that actually we should think about how we're going to manage an incident. For example, we actually have the H7N9 virus. Of course, before H7N9, we also got SARS that actually impact the entire Asia. We also have pandemic. And in the Middle East, we have MERS that actually a lot of us actually have concern about. And recently, we have other form of actually the pandemic that developed actually in Africa, and also start to spread to US. So we can actually see that virus pandemic is something that actually going, and it likely actually affect our daily life if it's actually outbreak. So how we can deal with it? So this is one category of the pandemic, and On the other prospect, we also have earthquake, we have tsunami, some of those that actually nature disaster that actually affect our daily living. And we have also bombing incident due to the terrorism or due to whatever incident that actually the bombing that actually incident that outbreak, and it affect the business and affect our life. Protest due to the difference in opinion, big scale protest that actually corner off the entire CBD area, affect the people working and also the business running. Typhoon Haiyan that actually strike across actually Asia, which is affect a lot of the people. Even after several years now, the economy in Philippines and the people that are affected by Typhoon Haiyan is still not back to the normal business and normal living. Information security, hacking incident like actually information security, hacker that actually will think about actually getting information and unlawful data that for their own benefit. So hacking incident, it do happen in a lot of the places, and how we going to deal with it. So you can see that there's a lot of disaster and crisis do happen in our neighborhood in a day-to-day wise. And how can we deal with it? So business continuity is something that we use to deal with some of the unforeseen circumstances, because nobody knows what is the next crisis will happen, how the disaster will affect your operation, affect your life itself in your environment. So in business continuity, we encourage ourselves to prepare for disaster. How to get prepared for disaster? First of all, we have to be expect for the unexpected. We must get ready to know that actually in the worst case situation, how you're going to deal with the problem. In the worst case, something happened, what is your most critical business function that you need to continue? Every business actually will need to prioritize, because in business continuity, every business will have something that's more important than the other function. Should they continue, or which other function that we can let go? In a normal day, of course, it will be good that you can do everything 100%. But in the case of crisis happen, with a disaster outbreak, it's impossible to do everything as per normal. So we need to be prioritized and very clear. What are the critical functions? What are those operations that we need to continue? And if you think that actually you know everything and you have already expect everything, then we need to think again, because we need to always expect the unexpected, and also at the same time we actually need to think about the worst case scenario. So in certain extent, business continuity manager or the business continuity industry itself is actually always need to think out of the box, right? What we say the deep blue ocean strategy, think about the black swan, think about actually what is the worst case thing that could happen. And in the events that something that go wrong that actually happen, then we can actually be ready. If you already plan for the worst case, anything that happen less than the worst case scenario is a bonus. If you can survive in the worst case scenario, anything that actually not as bad as the worst case scenario, you definitely will be able to continue, and you will be able to do better than what your worst case scenario. So think out of the box, plan for the unexpected is always what we need to do in business continuity. Having said that, so what can we do? What can we plan for? Because in the business continuity prospect, right, we actually understand that actually it can help us. But then what can we do using the business continuity model? So here is something that actually we can consider. In business continuity, we always plan for the consequences. We don't think about the cost. The previous scenario, previous of the crisis that we share together with you, you realize that actually we more focus on the cause of disaster. It might be due to a terrorism. That is the cause of the disaster. But then what is the consequences? And in the case that actually fire outbreak, fire could be the cause of the disaster. but then what is the consequences? You can realize actually that regardless it's a fire or it's a terrorism or maybe any other incident that happened, at the end of the day, one of the common consequences is that premises, you may lose your premises due to the fire, or maybe earthquake or other nature disaster that actually strike, and you lost the premises that you're operating in, or the staff that actually lost the home that actually they belong to. Second of the common consequences that actually we're all facing is that in the case of crisis that actually outbreak, we might actually lost our equipment. If we lose the equipment itself, then we may not be able to perform our business operation without the automation, without the equipment and system. A good example of it is that in the today world, a lot of us depends heavily in the IT computer, IT system. In the case that actually computer and the system or the data center is gone, a lot of the work cannot be continued. So equipment, it becomes a very crucial portion of it. Not only actually on the IT prospect, but then can you imagine in the hospital, if they have the medical equipment breakdown, then a lot of the medical checkup and a lot of the healthcare performance issue cannot be performed in time or may not even able to deal with it. The next prospect of it is the data, right? In the case of crisis, right, it may be physical data, it may be data with a computer, with a storage device itself, but once actually the loss of the data, then you realize that business actually will spend a lot of money and time in order to recapture the data or recreate the data, enter into the system. So data actually play a big part in the business, day-to-day operation, also making critical business operation. The fourth example that down here that I have for the consequences, right? In the case of crisis that happen, we may have other consequences that actually affecting us, like for example, loss of the manpower, loss of staff, loss of resources, right? So staff play a key part of our organization for a simple reason. With the staff, then you have a manpower and you have the skill set that you depends on for your operation. In the case that you actually have shortage of staff because of the fire outbreak or terrorist attack itself, the end result of it, actually you will realize actually a big problem is that you will not be able to carry out the operation as per normal. So staff actually play a critical role in any of the business continuity. Although we call it business continuity, but people is always come first. Without the people, there's no way that actually we're able to have business. Without the people, there's actually no operation that you're able to continue. So these are the few of the common consequences that we're looking at. So in short, in business continuity, one of the very key thing that we're looking at is that we always plan for the consequences, plan for the end result, looking at actually those disaster, the threat that actually happened, how it actually caused an impact to our organization, and what is the end result or the consequences we need to deal with. At the end of the day, what the business continuity, one of the main purpose down here is that we're going to build organization resiliency against the disruption, against any form of the crisis, and ensure the business able to continue. Business actually will be disrupted and affected by different crises and incidents, and only with a resiliency that being built into the organization, we can ensure the organization able to carry out their mission critical activity, able to continue their actually the minimum level of service level in order to go through with the crisis and able to continue their operation and provide the service to their customer. So building the organization resiliency, which level of resiliency that you require is always a challenge for business continuity. In order to create resiliency, we need to look at a few different prospects. We need to actually ask ourselves, what are the areas that actually able to help us to increase our resiliency? And from the words resiliency itself, we should ask ourselves, what is the minimum thing that we should do in order to ensure our business able to continue. And you can imagine if we drop an egg, what will happen? The egg will broken straight away, and hopefully you don't get a fried egg immediately. Right? And in the case, if you drop a ball, especially if you drop a rubber ball, the chances that it will bounce back. And this is probably a good and the easiest way to illustrate what is resiliency. All organizations, when they hit by a crisis or a disaster, they want to be like the rubber ball, able to bounce back and continue their operation, able to bounce back to meet their mission critical activity requirement. And in our industry, we always define the recovery time objective. How soon you are able to continue on your mission critical activity. And then with this bounce back itself, you want to reach your minimum service level that you're able to provide to your client, to your customer. No organization want to be like the egg that actually once it hit on the floor, actually it cracked. So business continuity in the perspective, we're looking at actually with the business continuity being put in place in the organization, we should be able to increase our organization resiliency. And with the resiliency itself, we can bounce back to the level of the business and the service level that can help us to continue with the company organization operation. Okay, right. I have explained briefly what we're looking at actually on the dealing with crisis, dealing with disaster, and dealing with the consequences itself. And we also have talked about what is actually on the resiliency related to business continuity. So maybe it's timely that we, at this point of time, we look at actually what is the definition of business continuity management. As I explained earlier on, right, in the business continuity management, we actually have an ISO standard that is called ISO 22301, published in actually 12th of May 2012. And under the ISO standard itself, it clearly defines what is business continuity management. And down here, actually, you can see that actually I have take reference to ISO standard, holistic management process that identify potential threat. So that means that we must actually be very clear what is the potential threat to an organization, that actually we're able to identify it upfront. And after identifying all these threats, and we must actually analyze the impact to the business operation. If all these threats that are actually being realized, what is the impact to our organization? And we look at actually also to provide a framework. We ask ourselves, what is the framework that actually we require to build the organization resiliency? This is the part that actually we talk about organization resiliency and what kind of capability in order to have effective response. Of course, in the business continuity, we're not only actually safeguarding the operation itself, we're also safeguarding the interest of the key stakeholder, reputation, brand name, and any value creation activity. Because end of the day, reputation, key stakeholder, brand name is all the variable resources that belong to an organization. So building resiliency, effective response, identify threat, knowing the impact is what the business continuity about. This is how it looked like on the ISO 22301 standard that actually we use in our industry, right? And only actually in 2012, this standard was actually openly published, and then using this standard itself, it helped us actually to identify what is a business continuity management system, because actually it's a certification process actually available. This is the business continuity is found under societal security for business continuity management. It's a requirement. That means that certification is possible and is accepted worldwide for the certification purpose. Right, so this is how it looked like, and as a quick reference, right? Okay, right. Let's cut into our main thing down here that we probably you can spend some time to discuss about on the key factor that we're looking at on the business continuity. So, what is the key success factor? Right, I have a few pointers down here. In fact, to be very honest, many of these is the mistake that actually I personally made in my earlier year of the career. And after thinking back and running project and over project itself, and when we try to summarize it, and we realize that there's some of the common thing that actually we all make common mistake over and over in the project management. I hope that with this presentation can share some of the insight story that actually we all will face in implementing business continuity. And if you happen to implement your business continuity management program, you will need not to make the same mistake that we made before, right? And here's the first one that we look at: choose the right people. People is an important resources to any of the organization, but also at the same time, in the business continuity unique of this nature of it, when you want to identify what is a critical operation, you want to identify what is a potential threat to the organization, you cannot avoid need to engage different department, need to engage different business owner, business department head, in order to help them, in order to get their help to input what is a threat in their respective location, in their respective business unit. So the business continuity will need a very big team of the people support in order to roll this out, to identify the threat in all various different departments, identify different impact in different departments. So choosing the right people, work with the right people as a coordinator in the department, choosing the right people to be the BCM manager to coordinate for this within the organization is a very key success factor. Without the right person that actually to drive the entire business continuity, you will just like actually having a big Ferrari and nice car, but then without the good driver able to drive it. We all know that actually in the F1 formula, you not only to win it, you not only need to have a good car and a good engine, you also need to have a good driver. So choosing the right person to drive the business continuity is always important thing. Not only within the business continuity, also the key decision maker. In the case of crisis, you have no time to wait. You need to make the decision quickly and to have people to make analyzing and then assess it and quickly make decision and able to roll out and get the incident deal with. So having the right person to make the decision and right person executing it is equally important. Second point that actually I see in the common success factor in business continuity is actually training. It's very important that we actually have effective training to the organization, because like same issue that we addressed earlier on, we actually have a big group of the people need to involve in business continuity management. And without suitable training, they will not be able to help you to identify the threat or the mission critical activity. Rolling out training effectively ensure everybody know what they need to know in order to perform the job, and also that provide the training in order to help them and not make them doze off in the training is very important. So having business continuity training effectively and know the user what they need to know in order to perform the job and prepare the effective training for them, it will be equally important. A good example of it is that if you have a BCM manager, they probably will need to take a longer training course in order to perform their job, because they will be involved from the day one all the way until the entire project complete. You might actually have individual specialized people that only involved, like for example, IT people only involved in the IT disaster recovery. So it's not necessary you brought them down and do the entire training for them on whole business continuity. So you need to be selective and knowing that what they require to perform and conduct the training for them accordingly. Senior management, creating awareness training for the senior management is equally important. But in most of the case, senior management will not have the time to sit in the training for the entire day training. or like coordinator, they may be taking the PECB implementer course, where it will take them actually quite a while. But for the senior management that do not have time to sit in for the entire day of training, you can consider creating awareness training over a lunch talk, or even doing it by the e-learning or webinar session. Okay? And short training will be effective. The next thing that actually I'm seeing is that using the right tool. And in business continuity, because there's so much data that we need to deal with, and constantly when we're actually having the information that, like for example, doing a risk analysis, or we're doing the business impact analysis, you may design a questionnaire, a 20 questionnaire, right, and send it out to 20 departments, right, and an organization with 20 departments, it might not actually very big in size, right, and you have each set of the question have 20 questions and send out. By the time they come back, you will have 400 answers. And how you're going to analyzing it? And more interesting that actually some of the coordinator, because they not be able to answer to some of your questions, they might actually quantify their answer with some comments or with some question back to you. And using the right tool is very important, and by and helping using the automation in the today prospect, it will able help you to analyze and get the data up and actually able to know what is the impact quickly, and then you can decide for that particular coordinator what actually are the work you require them to do. Or maybe actually in the first impact study you will realize that they are not critical operations and you can stop there. So knowing that actually using the information quickly able help us to get the data out, and management will be able to make quicker decision. The other prospect of the automation or using a right tools that actually we can consider is actually traditionally when a crisis happens, we need to use notification quick to all the user. And traditionally, making phone call is actually the easiest way to alert everybody. But in the today prospect, we could actually sending message using auto voice response system to dial to the user, and system will be able to do the job much quicker than actually a human being dialing the phone number one by one. So emergency notification system is very popular, especially in our part of the world. So when you implement business continuity, you also should consider using the right tools, and also they're actually thinking about what's the automation that you can get. Next point that actually I have down here to share with all of you is actually gaining the management support. Management support is actually very crucial to everybody. And in the particular case, actually, if you're going to roll out the business continuity, you cannot avoid there's actually some department coordinator, it might not actually cooperative in your work, and they may have reason that why they're not doing so. And management support is very important down here, because it's always that they see in the peacetime when there's no disaster happen, everybody will think that preparing for business continuity, prepare for disaster recovery, that is actually additional work for them. There's extra activity for them on top of that daily operation. But ask the guy that actually hit by crisis before, ask the guy that actually have a disaster, experienced a disaster before, they might not think the same thing. It's the same expectation that all of us have. When in the younger age, in the younger day, we all would think that buying insurance is something probably optional. You may not actually really care too much when you're buying an insurance or not. But then when you're getting older, then you know that actually one of these days actually the medical bill, or you will fall sick, and you will need actually the insurance to cover a certain perspective of it. So gaining the management support, let the management understand the importance of it, and enforce it into the organization, ensure that everybody, be it they like it or not, they will have to support the organization initiative. It's very crucial, right? And it's in a typical project in a business continuity, it's not a surprise that you actually got 10 or 20% of people that actually not too keen to do business continuity. And for a very simple reason, because they might be too busy in the day-to-day work itself. So what next? We talk about some of the problem and some of the issue that we could deal with in business continuity. So what is the next thing that we actually could deal with? And what is the next thing that actually we can help ourselves in order to get a better business continuity or better resiliency? And one of the solutions is that talk to management and project sponsor. And in any of the business, not only business continuity project, in fact, any of the project, we definitely will have a project sponsor. Let the project sponsor, let the management know the direction that you are going, your intent, the intention that actually you require to achieve is always a good thing, right? So management understand that actually because of compliance issue, because of actually the customer requirement, that's why we need to perform certain things. It will always help the project in order to get the buy-in from the rest of the user and being able to prioritize what is important to the organization. Because end of the day, it's a social responsibility thing as well for the organization. Imagine a crisis happen, it hit actually the infrastructure in the city, and the water or the power or even the public transport is stopped. The cost of the cost or the financial losses itself, it might be actually small issue as compared to it cause an impact to entire society. So talk to the management and project sponsor. Let them understand your intention, and understand their concern for the company itself. It always applies. Budget. What are the best thing that actually we can do is that every user, when they're doing something, they cannot avoid think about what in it for me. You're getting them to perform the business continuity. If they may be as a coordinator for the department, but what in it for them individually. So we need to actually put in aside budget to make sure that the user, after they're doing this project, they may be actually getting the training, they may be getting some form of certification from PECB, they may be actually getting the training, right? And with this, it do help them in their future career. It do help them actually in their knowledge-wise and in their education. So and all of this cannot be done without a budget. So we need to know what kind of budget that we need in order to ensure that the entire business continuity able run properly and support the user better. Gathering your resources. The next thing that we look at, gathering your resources, right? Because this is a typical business continuity process. We're doing the impact analysis, we're doing the risk assessment, we come up with a business strategy and able to counter whatever mission critical activity you need to perform, and we implement the procedure and process accordingly. And lastly, we try to conduct an exercise, or some people call it a test, right? In order to verify we're able to achieve our requirement. So with all this entire process itself, you realize any one of the phases that actually we talk about, it requires a lot of the resources, right? And like for example, when performing the impact analysis, you need the support of every department to identify what is a critical operation. And when you perform the risk assessment, you need the support of all the infrastructure user, all the IT support, facility management support, the business user to tell you what is the area that actually of the risk or the threat that they're facing, right? And when you're going to roll out the exercise and testing, you cannot avoid actually need to involve the user and the coordinator again to verify the process that is able to carry out a critical, mission critical activity that able to recover towards the capacity that they're looking at. So gathering the resources, getting the people, getting the information is part and parcel of business continuity project. And the most important thing is that you're able to digest all this data, able to analyze the data, to make sure that it used effectively for the entire business continuity project. Okay, right. I have shared with some of the actually slide and some of the thought that actually I have put in place. I hope that actually you find it useful, right? Of course, for the webinar section itself, I try to keep it short and simple. If any one of you want to actually to discuss any more in-depth or more advanced of the strategy, feel free to contact me actually after this webinar section, and we can actually have more in-depth discussion, right? I want to make the presentation short so that actually we can have more Q&A question and some of these discussion and better. If not, you will be staring at the computer the more than an hour. You will start to doze off like the picture that I showed earlier on. Okay, right. I will leave you all with my actually contact, and also I think the earlier slide, it do have my I do have actually some of my social media contact that actually you can keep in touch with, right? Okay, right. Is there any question I can take?
Thank you, Mr. Henry, for this great presentation. I think was very informative. And now it's time for questions. We have some questions for you. The first one is, which is the key element of business continuity management?
Oh, what is the key element?
Yeah, which is the key element of business continuity management?
Okay, yeah. So if you look at the key element that actually, I believe that you're looking at more the key element involved in the business continuity. You look at the slide that actually I just scroll back to, right? The key element in business continuity cannot avoid actually going through the business impact analysis. We have to know that what is a big impact, and of course, when doing that, we also need to identify what is a mission critical activity. You must know your critical activity, then you can think about the impact, and then you think about how soon you're going to recover, or how quickly you're going to recover. We have the risk assessment that actually interfaces as well, right? So we need to identify the potential threat that could actually affect your operation. Strategy, that is actually a critical phase as well. And then before we go to implement the business procedure. And the last one is the exercise and testing. These are all the steps in business continuity. Of course, we can't say that which one is more important than the other, but we always start on the fundamental that look at the business impact analysis as one of the key things to start with. Because if you start in the wrong foot, then the subsequent information all will be wrong. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Another question is, one of attendees has asked, where does IT resiliency fit into business continuity planning?
Sorry?
Where does IT resiliency fit into a business continuity planning?
Oh, okay, right. Thank you. Right. The IT actually in the prospect that on their involvement actually is all. If we're using the same picture again that down here, they actually involved in almost all the phases. But the IT actually will play a very critical role in the business continuity strategy, because they need to be actually work together closely with the business continuity manager to plan for the data resiliency, the data center backup, and also the alternate site that actually we're going to supporting. So if you say that actually which is the one of the steps that the IT will need to involve most, that definitely will be a strategy.
Yeah, thank you very much. And another question is regarding your BCM and ISO 27001 information security. Is there a difference in the approach? Both looks like a risk-based approach and use the PDCA circle.
Okay, yeah. The ISO 27000 definitely have a longer history as compared to BCM. So when actually the ISO 27000 initially launched, which is called under the British standard, the BS 7799, they actually already have a portion of business continuity planning. For the simple reason is that because if you deal with the information security, you cannot actually don't consider continuity. Because if you don't continue on that, then that means that actually security will be fall apart. An easy example is that if your firewall will not be able to continue throughout, that means that there's actually an information security problem. So business continuity have been considered under that whole cycle. On the second part of this question, PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act is a common thing to be used across almost all the management system in ISO. So Plan, Do, Check, Act is also being used actually in ISO 9000, 27000, and various other management system standards. So it's a thought process, and it doesn't really affect that actually what it covers. 27000 and 22301 for BCM, the preliminary differences is that 27000 look at information security. So thinking about information security, resiliency, continuity is on the information security prospect versus business continuity that thinking about actually ensure mission critical activity able to continue and having the resiliency down there is starting point is different and their focus point is different as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Henry, for answering the questions. And I want to thank all the attendees as well for joining us this webinar. We hope you enjoyed this webinar, and you can check PECB's webinar schedule in our website www.pecb.com. In the end, I want to inform all of you that next Monday we are hosting another webinar titled IT Governance, the Missing Compass in a Technology Changing World. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.